Hi, everybody. Welcome to Rachel's Reviews. And we're very excited today because we are talking about animated films, one of my favorite topics, particularly the animated films of 2025 that are going to be coming out. We're going to be talking about a bunch of them, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And I am film critic Rachel Wagner, and Larry's here.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
How's it going? Did you have a good holiday season?
Yeah, it's been all right so far. Not too bad. It's always hard. I don't know how much
Yeah.
time you get off from your job, but coming back
Yes.
after an extended break is always like, oh, okay,
Well, so
fun.
this is my first time in this going through a holiday season with this part-time job that I
Oh, yeah.
started. And it's just funny because not only am I having a hard time getting back into the swing of things, but the kids sure are too.
It's tough, and it's so funny because like your coworkers and stuff. Everybody looks so like refreshed and re-energized, and you're like, yeah. I mean, I guess your skin kind of feels it, but your brain does not feel
Yeah.
so refreshed today.
Yeah.
But back, so
Well, we're going in to talk about 2025 animated films, but before we do that, how do you feel about 2024 animation? What do you think? Do you think it was a
yeah,
good year or not so good?
I think it was a pretty solid year. It was a year that nothing for me that I saw because I skipped like Megamind. So thankfully, I consulted with Rachel a couple times. It's like, oh, I
I
do
was
my
like, you
end of the
really
year
don't need to do
animation
that.
ranking. Like, do I need to put myself through it? And I decided just not to. But so I skipped that horrible one, and everything I watched ended up being like, meh. Like, I didn't love it, but it didn't make my worst. Like, even the dishonorable mentions, which is a bit rare. There's usually at
Yeah.
least an animated film that I just sit through at one point or another throughout the year where I'm like, oh, whoa, this is horrible. I guess
Yeah.
like Harold and the Purple Crayon took that spot this year for animation. That was
Yeah,
the
that was
animated offering that snuck in.
painful.
Because everything else, like I didn't love like Thelma and the Unicorn or Despicable Me 4. Um, those were like the bottom barrel for me
Hmm.
with animation, but even those I was like, it's not great, but
Yeah.
it's not terrible. Like I didn't hate watching these. So
Right.
it's good. And then the top of the list, I'd say like my top
Yeah.
six were really, really good. Like six or
Yeah.
seven, I really enjoyed. I ended up with three animated films in my top 10 of the year. I didn't think it was going to happen, but the way it all kind of like
Yeah.
shuffled out, I got up to three by the end. So yeah, I think overall it was a pretty good year.
Yeah, I would say so too. And there were a good mixture of strong studio films and indies there. With the Wild Robot, Inside Out 2 was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Transformers 1 was better than I thought it was going to be. I enjoyed Sonic. I enjoyed Flow. I mean, so there was the Wallace and Gromit was good.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a good mixture there.
And then you look at the box office. This is the first time since 2013 an animated film was top of the year end box
Is
office.
that true? That's the first time?
Yeah, the first time since Frozen did it. So even Frozen 2, I think, was the same year as some really big hitters. That's the other thing, is like a Marvel film had snatched it from our other really big animated films. But
Huh.
this year we beat Marvel with animation. Inside Out 2 was able to take down Deadpool and Wolverine. And when you look
Yeah.
at the top five, three of the top five biggest earners this year were animated in Inside Out 2, Despicable Me 4, and Moana 2. So it was a great year at the box office, and then you add in Kung Fu Panda 4, which was part of the top 10 at the worldwide. People were seeing animated films, and that's always a good thing, I think, by and large. Now, if the
Yeah,
industry would
even
just get
ones
on the
that
same level and respect, that'd be great.
I didn't realize that Kung Fu Panda 4 did as well as it did. I mean, I didn't think it was like a flop, but I was surprised when I saw it in the top 10 for the year.
Yeah.
I was like,
I
oh,
know.
okay.
I know. Look, that
There you go.
especially with the critical acclaim of the Wild Robot, to then remember Kung Fu Panda 4 was like their moneymaker of the year
Yeah,
still.
it's
Like that
true.
was the DreamWorks movie that
Yeah.
led the way in the box office. And it was kind of our first big one early on in the year that
Yeah.
broke way. It was doing very well.
Yeah.
It was like that, and Godzilla vs. Kong was the next shocker at the box office. So it was a good year. It was, I think,
Sure.
overall good year. And now it's fun seeing a year where we have a DreamWorks movie kind of battling it out with this foreign indie film for
Yeah.
like the best animated feature
It's
prize.
true.
That's a really exciting
Yeah.
lineup. You know, we all love Inside Out, but it's kind of fun to not have it be Pixar or Disney
Yeah.
battling. It's two completely different entities.
It's true. And I mean, I love the Wild Robots so much, but it would be, I mean, I thought Flo was very, very sweet. And it would be the first time that I've ever had the Oscar winner on my podcast, on my
I think
channel. I interviewed him against this year. So that's
I
kind of
think a lot
cool.
of us, yeah,
Go
I think a lot
Flo.
of people, we all love the Wild Robot. Obviously, I think it has a huge fandom, but I
Yeah.
think most Wild Robot fans would still be pretty okay if
Yeah.
Flo won, just
Yes.
because. How
They're
do you
very
root against
similar.
that? How do you root against this
Yeah.
very small independent film, like a grassroots campaign? They don't have any sort of like big studio or distributor backing behind them. That's the kind of story,
Yeah.
you can't root against that.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And he did such a good job, I think, of giving a photorealistic style, but still having it be his style. Like it still felt like someone painting, even though it felt lush and realistic. It still
Yeah.
had an artistic touch to it, which, like a lot of times, these photorealistic, animated films lose that
Yes.
touch. And so I thought that was very impressive. But yeah, either way, win-win.
Are you a fan of Rachel's Reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/hallmarkies.
So, well, let's dive in. So I'm going off of Animation Magazine's article that they put out in November of the 2020, of the top 25 animated movies coming out in 2025. Some of these are technically considered 2024 releases. A few of them we've seen. And so, yeah, that's what I'm going off of. There's obviously going to be movies that we're not going to mention. And if you want to talk about them in the comments, if you're listening and you want, why didn't they talk about this? Put it in the comments. But that's just, and I'll put a link down to this article. That's what we're going off of for this episode. Let's dive in. Let's talk about, we're going to give a excitement score 1 to 4. Okay. So your excitement for the movie. We've got The Bad Guys 2. This is director Pierre Perifel is back for the second big cinematic outing of the master criminal Animals, based on the books by Aaron Laby. The sequel finds the good guys pulled out of retirement and forced to do one last job by an all-female squad of evildoers. So this comes out, and I don't really understand the order that this article is in, but anyway, this comes out August 1st. What do you think about The Bad Guys 2?
Yeah, the Bad Guys was one of those where I thought it was fun enough, though I maybe was a little bit less hype than a lot of folks were. Seems like it has a very passionate fan base, The Bad Guys does. So I'm excited that it because it was kind of a sleeper hit as well.
Yeah.
Like it didn't do big numbers like gangbusters at the box office, but it garnered this fan base, which is, I think The Wild Robot maybe has done a little bit better up front, but I'm like, oh, good. This makes me very hopeful we can get another one. It's also a book series, so we can move along with the books. And I'm excited for it. I'm actually surprised they have a trailer out so early for it. I've seen the
Yeah.
trailer in theaters. It looks fun. It seems like it's very much in the vein of that first film. So, yeah, I think it could be a good time. I'm hopeful. It's
One
a
of my
DreamWorks
favorite
sequel. I'm hopeful.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about the original film was that it was set in LA and that they had like noticeable landmarks in it, and you got like a sense of an actual like chases and races, and the action was really really well done, because that's rare in an animated film. Usually in animated films, if there is an urban environment, it's like San Francisco. It's a fake place or Zootopia or something like that. There's hardly any animated films that are set in actual cities. There's like a little bit of London and Dalmatians, or there's Oliver and Company in New York. You've got, so there are a couple, but not many. And so I thought that was really fun. It allowed you to, it was added an immersive element to it. And it was just the animation was so cool and it was so slick. But it's interesting you say that it's kind of developed this fan following, because I felt like it kind of got forgotten. Like that got kind of lost in the shuffle. And so I'm glad to hear that. I mean, I was honestly a little bit surprised when I heard that they were doing a second one, because I just didn't think the first one had that much of a buzz around it.
Yeah, I think it died off a little bit. I do think that happened, but I remember especially the year it came out, because it was a crowded year for DreamWorks. They've been churning movies out lately. Just in general, I'm like, wow, DreamWorks, you're working over there. So at least for every bad DreamWorks movie, they give us a good one. It seems like.
Yeah, because I think it got kind of lost in The Last Wish.
Yes,
which I loved so much. I still love so much, and that one was such a surprise.
Yeah.
Where I don't know, for whatever reason the bad guys just didn't have that same like shock appeal for me.
Yeah, I think the way that it died out was just kind of a product of so many DreamWorks movies. I think there were 3 that year, so
yes,
we're kind of back in a more realistic rhythm. Maybe DreamWorks, we'll see. But yeah, I think I'll go with like a 2.75 on the excitement scale for The Bad Guys 2.
Yeah, I think I'll give it a 3. But because I don't know, like the plot does sound like it doesn't sound like the best plot, but hopefully it'll be fun. Okay, so then we have The Colors Within. This is Naoko Yamada's acclaimed new feature. It's based on Tsunami Suzuki's popular manga about a young girl who has the ability to see the colors of others' emotions and forms a band with 2 other sensitive people. Now, the Naoko Yamada, she did the silent voice, and that was such like a brutal, moving, grueling, intense film, and I really admired it. So I think a lot of people are very excited to see kind of what she does next. You've seen this, correct?
Yes, I have seen this. Actually.
Okay, so did it have that intensity of a silent voice, or is it lighter?
It's lighter.
Okay.
I think it's much lighter. Yeah, it's pretty anime for sure. Obviously, I feel like, especially when they're like the critically acclaimed ones, very rarely do they come over and they're just like ugly.
Right.
Like they're like one of these that gets like a lot of buzz around them. They're at least going to be artistically beautiful. And I felt that way about this. It definitely has emotional beats to it and emotional moments throughout. But I think they could have actually gone further with most of that. I think it kind of stays like in a kind of shallowy area with most of that for me personally.
They released a silent voice into theaters, I think, getting ready for this in December, and I'm like, that is a strange movie to watch in December. Like, nobody's going to want to watch this movie about bullying and suicide, and like. I mean, I guess we watch it. It's a Wonderful Life. It's about suicide, but still, I mean, it seemed like an odd flex for your holiday viewing.
Yeah, at least wait until for January,
Yeah.
like this first weekend of January, just drop it again or
Yeah, that would make more
something.
sense.
This is another one that has a really strange release schedule, as all anime does, trying to qualify for Oscars. Supposedly it comes out in LA and maybe a theater in New York for a week in December, and then it's
Yeah.
actually getting its release, I think in January, right? Like mid-January, I believe.
January 24th.
Yeah.
So you've seen it. What would you give it out of 4?
So I think it's another one that probably hovers right around that 2.75
Okay.
meter as well for me.
Okay. I mean, I'd give it a
pretty
3.
middle of the list on my.
Yeah.
It was pretty middle of the list on my animation ranking of the year.
All right. Sounds good. Okay. So then we have The Day the Earth Blew Up, Looney Tunes movie. Daffy Duck and Porky Pig join forces to save the world from aliens in this 2D animated Looney Tunes movie made for the big screen. And I've seen this. You've seen this already. We've both seen it. And I absolutely loved it. I thought it was so funny. In my opinion, this is the best feature film that we've ever gotten on Looney Tunes.
Yeah,
I think it's better than either of the
around.
I think it's better than either of the Space Jam movies. I think it's better. I mean, I know that bar's not that high, but I think it's better than Back in Action. I just think it's the best film, not shorts, that we've gotten.
Yeah.
Some people will be a little bit annoyed that Bugs isn't in it. And maybe a couple other characters that they, might want to see. But I just thought it really captured that energy and that rhythm and that humor, and I loved the animation, and I had a great time with it. What did you think of it?
That was a lot of fun. It's like Looney Tunes to the core. The ridiculousness, the over-the-topness, the style of the jokes, it all just fits really well. I did like the pairing of, Daffy and Porky, and then of course we add in little Petunia coming in as well to be our trio here. I could have used at least, we're dealing with space. Marvin couldn't have popped in or something. I don't know. I could have used maybe one more of our Looney Tunes characters thrown in somewhere in here. But overall, I had a lot of fun with it as well.
Yeah. I can see that. I mean, I would give it, I would give it a full 4 just because I was so happy to finally see a good Looney Tunes movie. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I really did.
Another one with a weird release schedule. Again, and I don't know why, because it's a very competitive animation year.
I don't know why they tried to get it in this year.
In December of last year, again, somewhere qualifying, and then they sent out screener links to kind of like push it, because it's getting a very small distribution company is the one pushing it. It's not actually like Warner Brothers doing it. It's this catch-up entertainment company that's pushing it. Yeah. But I really think they probably would have been better served to just release it full on in February and not try to qualify for the 2024 calendar year. But I'd give it a 3. I had fun.
Yeah. Okay, so then we have David. This isn't coming out until November, but there is a trailer. This is a musical adaptation of the biblical tale of King David of Israel from his early days as a shepherd to his reign. And this is Angel Studios. And I don't know. I mean, I'm going to give this a 2. I actually think the animation looks nice. I've liked everything that I've seen from Angel Studios, and I am definitely like the target demographic. And they're all they're made here in Utah, so maybe their house too.
There you go.
So I think for what I am hoping for, I think this will be good. But I think it'll probably one that feel more like a streaming one.
Yeah, Angel Studios now dipping into animation. Is this their first time in animation?
Yeah, first time.
Yeah, I don't know. I just have like flashbacks of that Star movie when I think of like theatrically released, religious themed animation.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks like it could be fun, but I agree. Even the animation style's giving like a Netflix or
streaming,
like one of those Netflix animated movies that gets released throughout the year. So I think 2 is fair.
Yeah. All right, so then we have Dogman, Dave Pilkey's hilarious best-selling book series about a half-man, half-dog police officer who tries to save his city from the evil schemes of Petey the cat, is now an eye-popping new DreamWorks movie. It's directed by Peter Hastings of the epic Tales of Captain Underpants, with the voices of Pete Davidson, Isla Fisher, Stephen Root, Ricky Gervais. This comes out January 31st. We have a trailer. What do you think?
Well, I will say, first off, I'm really happy we have an animated film between December to like April, because it
Yeah,
seems
that
like
was so
for
ridiculous.
the last several years, they've kind of just left this huge open gap at the beginning of the calendar year, and I don't know why they continue to do that. So I'm glad a studio was like, "Oh, hey, why don't we release our movie in this weird gap vacuum that's happening?"
I will never understand what Neon was thinking with Robot Dreams. You have it being nominated for an Oscar. You have no animated competition for 4 months. And it's not like the movie wasn't done. It was done. We had it. The critics had it. We had it to watch. So why on earth would you wait to release it? And it didn't come here in Utah until July, when you got all of this competition. And even
everybody's forgotten.
Even the best of scenarios, it didn't really get a release until May. And you're just like, why would you do that? It just doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't you? And like, of course, Illumination is completely brilliant because they were able to just let Migration just like,
and
it ended up doing super well.
And you watch, you watch Migration's box office, and it opened, not great, but it stayed at that exact opening weekend for like months until Kung Fu Panda, like months later. You were like,
they could have put Robot Dreams in there in like February, and it'd just be this little engine that could. I'll never understand it.
It's literally the worst Oscar nominee release strategy I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It baffled my mind, but so I'm glad that they're releasing this.
Yeah, that's
I know that this Dogman is very popular right now. It's like a very popular series amongst kids. And I want to be excited for it because you can tell it's from the creators of Captain Underpants because it has that same kind of cool style to it. The concept is so weird. Like, just seeing it in that trailer, like the man and the dog basically die or half die, and they're like, let's chop off the half of the dog and put it on the top of the human body. It's bonkers. Like, that is such an insane thing. And the humor, it's just not, it's not hitting like I wanted to.
Half-dog police officer trying to save his city from the evil schemes of Petey the cat. Is Petey also half?
From what the trailers look like, he's just a cat. He's just a talking cat. So I'm like, why can't it just be a talking dog that runs around? Why? Like, they literally take the dog and his, the police officer and his little police dog, put them on the dang surgery table in the trailer, and the nurse is like, we can take the top half of the dog and put it on the bottom half of the human. Yeah. No. And it's just like, what is going on? It's almost a fever dream of a concept. It's wild, but we'll see. We'll see.
I think I'm going to give it a 2, but who knows?
Yeah, it's about a 2. There's a sliver of hope in there that maybe they'll surprise me, but those trailers aren't selling it.
Okay, well, we have Elio. This is Pixar. Follows the adventures of an 11-year-old boy who becomes the intergalactic ambassador of Earth after being beamed up to the Cum universe for making contact with aliens. This is directed by Dong-Hee Shi and Madeline Sherifin. And I was not a big fan of Turning Red. I was contrarian on that one. So Dong-Hee Shi actually is like, I don't know if I really gel with her. But it looks sweet enough. It looks cute enough. I think it could be fun. What do you think?
Again, I'm excited for an original Pixar, maybe our last one for a while.
Yeah.
So I want it to be good. And we've been waiting for what feels like forever. We've been waiting for this movie to come out. And I think the trailer looks very endearing. It looks cute. So I'm hopeful. That Elio can give us something good. Plus, you can never really trust Pixar and those dang trailers for whatever reason.
Yeah, that's true.
They're like the worst company to cut a trailer.
Yeah.
So you just kind of have to walk in and hope Pixar delivers the magic.
It's true. They really do have some absolutely terrible trailers. It's
Yeah.
true. I'm gonna give it a 3.
Yeah, I'm gonna go optimistic. I'm optimistic for it. I'm gonna go 3.5.
Okay, good. So I'm gonna skip Gabby's Dollhouse, the movie. I don't think we need to preview that. In your dreams, Stevie and her brother Elliot use magic to enter the realm of dreams to meet the Sandman, who could grant them the wish of saving their parents' marriage. Charming feature by Cuckoo Studios is directed by Alexander Wu and Eric Benson. It features the voice of Craig Robinson, Simu Liu, and this is going to be a Netflix. What do you think about this?
Funny enough, I've also seen this one.
Oh, you have.
I'm already in 3 movies for 2025 according to this list.
Is this considered technically a 2024
No.
film?
So this was part of they got me in on this like Netflix preview thing. So I saw that it's been a while, so I'm gonna have to rewatch it before I do anything because I saw it in like September or August. It's been like a while since I've watched this film. But it's basically like this way of Netflix to test screen some of their stuff and like get feedback and stuff.
Okay.
So this was one of them.
So it technically could be altered.
Yes, so it could be
Okay.
different. It could be,
Let me see it.
some things be switched up or changed based on the feedback that they get. I knew nothing about it, obviously, and again, because most of those films they previewed Atlas with Jennifer Lopez last year.
Oh, they did.
Before that thing even had like a trailer or anything. I'm like, oh, okay, well, how much time do you have to change this movie? No. But
That's funny.
yeah, it's a solid Netflix animation for me. It's one of their.
I was
It's
a little
solid
nervous
one for them.
because I was very looking forward to Spellbound, and I found that very disappointing. That movie, and they had like a divorce subplot in that as well, which I admired them for trying, but I don't think it really worked. And
I agree.
so I'm like, oh no, now they're trying again. This, oh no.
Rachel. Yeah, it's a weird trend, I guess. I don't know. I guess
yeah.
animation just gets on these trends, and they roll with it for a while. So we'll be
Yeah.
getting divorce movies for a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'd give this one a 2.
I think it's about a 2.5 is what I'd rate it.
That's good to know. All right.
Unless they change it. That rating may change. Stay tuned.
Yeah. Next, we have K-pop Demon Hunters, members of popular female K-pop band slay evil spirits between musical gigs in this colorful action adventure movie. Have you seen this? This is Netflix.
I have not seen this
Okay.
one, so they did not. Maybe Sony is like, no, we don't want to. Don't show it. This seems fun. I hadn't really heard of it. The little picture on the article seems cute. Sure. K-pop girls to the rescue.
I give it, a 3.
Yeah, 2.5. Sure, right in the middle.
Okay. All right. Okay, so then we have The King of Kings. Charles Dickens tells the story of Jesus Christ to his son in this CG animated feature with a star-studded cast, including Oscar Isaac, Kenneth Branagh, Ben Kingsley. The list goes on and on. This I think it looks a little bit better. It sounds a little bit better than the David one.
Yeah.
But I would give it 2.5.
Yeah, do they have a trailer out for this one?
No, and they don't even have a date yet.
Mofac Animation.
Mm-hmm. This is penned by Sing Ho and Rob Edwards, who did Princess and the Frog. Which that script is kind of a mess.
I'm mostly a sucker for, some good Charles Dickens. It's usually pretty fun. Even in animation form, there's some fun ones.
Yeah.
I love Oscar Isaac, so that's a good way to get me, hooked in. And
I don't know if it'll
watching
be a
him.
musical.
Hey, so he'd be him being Jesus, and then Kenneth Branagh. Okay. I mean, they got a great cast for this. I hope
Yeah.
that is indicative of it. So yeah, let's go with a nice like 275 on that one.
Okay, then we have Kittened. A famous Parisian rapper named Tough Dog seeks a shy girl's help when he accidentally swaps bodies with a kitten in the CG animated feature directed and written by Albert Perea Lazaro. And it's so, yeah, Kittened. I had never heard of this until reading this article.
Yeah.
It's another French movie.
Not sure about this one. Not sure about that premise either.
Tough Dog seeks a rapper named Tough Dog.
A
guess.
Parisian rapper. Oh,
Parisian, yeah.
yes, these Parisian rappers. You know how tough those can be.
I give this a 1.
1, yeah. One.
1 for Kitten. Okay, then we have The Last Whale Singer. A rebellious teenage humpback whale ventures with his companions to the deepest sea where he must summon his mystical song to save the oceans from destruction in the CG animated feature. And they do have a trailer for this. And I can't help but watching it think of Finding Nemo. You can't speak whale. I can speak whale. Whatever.
I know.
That's so funny. It looks fine.
Yeah. It looked the animation when I clicked the trailer looked a little bit more generic than I was hoping for. Because the synopsis sounds really nice. Like I was like, oh, okay, this seems like something right up my alley. I just think they would have been better served with, I don't know, something more magical in the animation than what this teaser at least presents. But I'm still hold out a little hope. I'll go 2.5.
Yeah. All right. Then we have The Magnificent Life of Marcel Pagnol. The acclaimed director Sylvain Chomet's much anticipated new movie is set in 1955 and follows the life and adventures of celebrated French writer Marcel Pagnol. And Marcel Pagnol has to have some kind of record for the most movies made about his life. He has so many, because there's a great set of movies called My Father's Glory and my Mother's Castle. Those are all made about his childhood. But then there's more movies made about him as an adult. I mean, he was a director, so he directed movies, and then yeah, there's just a lot of movies made about Marcel Pagnol. and my Mother's Castle and My Father's Glory are absolutely wonderful films. I highly recommend them. And I mean, I don't know how you can't be excited to see what the Triplets of Belleville, what Sylvain Chomet, what he's going to do, because it's been so long since he's made a movie.
Yeah, and I watched this trailer as well. I thought it looked beautiful. The animation obviously is beautiful.
So
he
hasn't made a movie since The Illusionist in 2010.
Oh wow, yeah, it's been a long time.
And he was the best part about Joker Folie à Deux. He did the animated sequence in there.
Yeah.
Way to go.
And I know you haven't loved obviously this is not from the director or anything, but it's what I think of when I think of animation and Sony Pictures Classics is the like artsy foreign films, like the Van Gogh one and then the one about that woman. What was it?
The Peasants.
The Peasants. Thank you, The Peasants. So that's what I think of instantly when I hear animation from Sony Pictures Classics. Like those come to mind, but I have enjoyed them, particularly Van Gogh. I really liked that. So I have faith in them as a studio and like what they choose to distribute and kind of like the artistic value they put behind the animation they release. So I'm excited. I'd probably give this one like a 4.5 or 3.5.
I'm gonna give it a full 4. I'm gonna give it a 4.
Yeah.
I forgot about it when I was doing my most anticipated. I forgot. about it, but I am really looking forward to it. I swear, every time I make a list, there's always one that
Always.
as soon as I finish, I'm like, how did I forget?
You're negative. You were like, no, I have to come back on and talk about Megalopolis. Hold on.
Yeah.
I'll make an exception. I'm getting back on the camera. We can't get through it without talking about it.
We'd like to take a second to thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the new book, Zoe Brennan, First Crush by Lara Piper Lee. In Zoe Brennan, First Crush, a struggling vineyard owner, Zoe Brennan, gets a second taste of first love in a sapphic romantic comedy that sparkles with humor and heat. From Lara Piper Lee, author of the witty Hannah Tate Beyond Repair, Zoe's story is both a spin-off and a standalone novel with plenty of spice. You'll have a great time reading it. You can get it wherever you purchase your books or use the affiliate link below. That's Zoe Brennan, First Crush. We've got a new Dawn, this anime artist, Takeshi Shinomiya. First directing debut is inspired by the changing Japanese landscape after the devastating 2011 earthquake. It centers on a young boy living in an abandoned firework factory who devises a plan to move on with his life after his father's disappearance. So this sounds, and the image they have here looks really beautiful.
Yeah,
so I think
gorgeous.
Seems
like it's going to be moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I think 3.
Yeah, 3.
Okay, then we have Night of the Zoopocalypse. We have a trailer for this. This family comedy follows a group of animals that become zombies after their zoo is hit by a meteorite. See, what I'm a little confused by with that description, because that doesn't appear to be in that's not what the trailer seems like.
Yeah.
So did they become zombies after the scene that's in the trailer?
I would guess so, because you're right. That's not what the trailer showed.
No. And so anyway, yeah. I mean, it sounds interesting. Could be fun. This comes out this
French
month,
year, huh? It's a very French themed year here.
Why wouldn't you want to get on the scene with everything that the Illumination is doing over there?
Well, that's very true.
I'd want to get in on that. This one is coming out soon. I mean, I guess that's in France, coming out January 29th, and then US March 7th.
Okay, so a little bit of a gap there, actually. So interesting. I wonder if it'll. Are there any animated films premiering at Sundance this year?
No, there was one that had an animated poster, but I wasn't sure if it was animated. Let me see.
I do feel like most of the times, though, those animation that go to Sundance are usually kind of mid.
Yes.
Like when I get around to seeing them, I'm like, oh, okay, this is what you chose to premiere at Sundance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The family films are usually very weak, with the exception of Timmy Failure, my beloved. But yeah, I would agree that aside from Timmy Failure accepting the family films this Sundance have been weak.
It seems like, especially because it's coming out this month in France, and then later I was like, this feels like maybe like a Sundance, like something they just throw in there to go at Sundance, but I guess it doesn't need distribution, obviously. But
I give it like 2.5.
Yeah, 2.5.
It'll depend if it's funny. I always say funny saves all.
Yes. Kind of surprised they put Paddington in Peru in the straight up animation portion.
Yeah, so they have that in this preview, and because it is strange because they have a hybrid section later on in the article. Yeah.
I'm like, that seems like Paddington belongs down there, but
everyone's favorite marmalade-loving bear is back in this third feature and adventure, which finds him and the Browns deciding to visit Aunt Lucy in Peru. However, circumstances lead them to misadventures in the Amazon rainforest and mountains of Peru. And so this one comes out February 14th. I have heard from a lot of people overseas that have seen it and said it is the weakest of the 3. But that's understandable. It does have a different director. And it doesn't have Sally Hawkins in it. Which is a little bit of a bummer. But still, everybody I know said it's still like really sweet and really fun. So I had it as my second most anticipated of the year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, and if I hadn't heard those kind of like, it's, little bit mixed reviews, it would have probably been number 1. Because I love those first 2 so much.
Yeah, I know. I'm really still really excited. The trailers seem really fun and right in line with what you're hoping for.
Yeah.
Definitely that change in director was my first okay. We're changing things up here, but still I still think like a solid 3.5.
Yeah. So my if people can watch the video, my number one was of course Wicked
Oh, of
for
course.
the most anticipated. But then Paddington Prue. So I'm gonna give it a 4 just because I still am very, very excited about it. But
So we're getting 2 SpongeBob movies next year?
evidently, yes. So we have Plankton the movie. This is it says here it follows Plankton as his world is completely changed when his global domination plans are thwarted. And then what's the other? And then the other one is the SpongeBob movie Search for SquarePants. And this is a follow up to Sponge on the Run. Our favorite absorbent hero goes into the deepest depths of the ocean to face off against the Flying Dutchman, voiced by none other than Mark Hamill. So I think that the Plankton one is going to be more of like a Netflix streaming.
Yeah.
Sounds like this SpongeBob the movie, The Search for SquarePants, is going to be more of a theatrical. This doesn't say Netflix; it says Paramount Nickelodeon.
Yeah, and that one says
December.
Nickelodeon and
Plankton
Netflix.
is Nickelodeon Netflix. So I'm definitely more excited for the
Yeah. I don't even know that I
Paramount.
watched the Plankton one just because
Yeah.
I'm not a huge SpongeBob person. I don't know. I didn't really grow up on it. I
Well,
didn't
and
watch it growing up that much.
And that the one they did, the squirrel one, what the Sandy one was, it was absolutely atrocious. It was so bad.
I didn't watch it, but I heard it was terrible. So that Sandy Cheeks, no.
It was painful.
Oh, I don't know how you get excited for these side character movies moving forward right now. But I don't know that I've the Plankton one.
Really
the other
bad.
one, sure. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens with the theatrical one.
Yeah, the Plankton I give 0, and then for the SpongeBob one I'll give it a 2.
2 sounds fair.
Yeah. Okay, then we have the Twits. This is Netflix, and it's this is written and produced by Phil Johnson from Ralph Breaks the Internet. This adaptation of Roald Dahl's book centers on the miserable and mean Mr. and Mrs. Twit, who run the most idiotic amusement park in the world, and the brave orphans and magical animals who band together to stop their madness.
Yeah,
What do you think?
I know a lot of people didn't like that last one. What was the last one they did for Netflix? The Roald Dahl. And people didn't love it. I really enjoyed it. So
the Matilda?
no, sorry, the last animated one. It looked very similar to this in style, actually, but now I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, usually I'm looking forward to these macabre little Roald Dahl fantasy animations. So I'll give it a 3. No, it's Natalie Portman, Emilia Clarke, Margot Martindale. Yeah.
I do think that the Roald Dahl is very tricky to adapt. You have to I think you have to add like a little bit of whimsy into his stories, because there's something that they're just they read sometimes as really depressing, when for some reason when you're reading them on the page it doesn't come off that way. And so that's why I think like the original Willy Wonka, it works so well, is because they have all that darkness is there, but then they add like a little bit of whimsy to make it more palatable. And I think that's kind of what you have to do.
Yeah. How would you rate it?
I mean, I'm going to give this one a 3. It's got Emilia Clarke, which is a bit of a red flag.
No, don't say.
I mean, her movies have been terrible. She's had a horrible run.
She was in which one? Maurice, right? That was she was in one of those like kind of mid.
But seriously, Me
movies.
Before You, Solo, Terminator Genisys. She was in Secret Invasion, which I heard was terrible. She's had Last Christmas I Hated. She has had a horrible run of movies.
It's been
Like,
rough.
I get it.
It's been
I
rough.
get that she's great in Game of Thrones, but
Oh, I know it's been rough. But I think that's the only other I think no, she was in a different animated movie too. But yeah, she's starting to do more animation. Maybe that's why. Maybe they're like, we'll put you behind the camera and see if it works. Well, how do you feel about these other two, Rachel, that were between the two SpongeBobs?
oh,
It's
you're right.
Puku.
Sorry. Yeah, thanks. I'm glad you reminded me. Okay, so we have Puku, written and directed by Nathan Greeno of Tangled. This visually stunning buddy comedy centers on a small woodland creature and a majestic bird, two sworn enemies of the valley that magically trade places and set off on an adventure of a lifetime. You know what makes me nervous about this is that it's Skydance. They
Yeah,
have
I was
had
about to say.
2 duds in a row, and I am now losing confidence in. They have a great team. They have great talent over there as far as their ability to have made hits in the past. And now they've had 2 movies that were so generic and so lame that I don't know. That makes me nervous. But just on the image is very cute. And I love Tangled. So
Yeah. I want to be helpful because I think that an image is so adorable that I
Yeah.
want to love it already. But I agree with you that Skydance, we're not off to the best start. So maybe third time's the charm, and they've cracked the code. Dealing with cute little animals. I mean, I guess they kind of dealt with cute little animals in that Spellbound, but they weren't that cute. And the character designs of those 2 monsters, the parents, I thought was really weird. I did not
Yeah.
like the designs of the monsters at all. So we're already off to a more visually pleasing aesthetic. I just hope the writing is there too. So I'll go 2.5 because I want to be helpful, but I'm still trepidatious.
Yeah. I would give it 2, but yeah, we're basically the same place on that. So then we have the Smurfs movie. Peyo's Timeless Blue Villagers are back in this musical adventure directed by Chris Miller. And pop diva Rihanna voices Smurfette and performs original music for this outing. And one of the things, I guess, a underrated movie that I've always championed is I think Smurf the Lost Village is a lot better than people gave it credit for. The animation I think is absolutely beautiful in that movie, and if anything, maybe they take themselves a little too seriously at the end. It becomes kind of like messianic at the end with Smurfette, and everything is a little much. But I think overall it's a solid little movie, and it was treated like as if it was garbage, and I think that it really got a lot of the crap from those live action films that people really disliked and that were terrible. But I personally, I quite enjoyed it, and we reviewed it for our animation, talking animation podcast, me and Stanford, and I even have the art book for it. I don't know. I just think I think it's a beautiful movie and has some really nice moments. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with this one. I feel like this is a movie that just is that nobody's asking for.
Yeah, well, then you see Chris Miller, director of Shrek the Third and Puss in Boots. That doesn't give me much confidence. I mean, Puss in Boots is fine. Shrek the Third.
I just feel like it just feels like, okay, you're desperately trying to grasp onto any IP that you can, but just nobody cares about this.
Why do they keep casting pop stars as Smurfette too? That's another weird thing. Like every iteration is some. Well, I guess it was Zooey Deschanel in those live action ones, but it's like Katy Perry, Rihanna. Like what? Why do we always have these random pop stars as Smurfette? Like, is she just known to be the singer, this pop diva? No, she's just the only girl. I agree. 1.5.
I'm gonna give it a 2.5 just because I really did love Lost Village. I really enjoyed it. So okay, let's see. Now we move back. So we've got Wildwood. This is like a 6th animated feature based on Colin Malloy and Carson Ellis's book that follows Prue McKeel and Curtis Melberg as they attempt to save Prue's infant brother Mac from the crows, led by Alexandra, while drawn into a hidden magical forest. The dark fantasy adventure is directed by Travis Knight and has cast and everything. Yeah, what do you think?
Super hyped, really excited. Maybe my most anticipated of the year. It's back to obviously anytime like create something, I'm on board. I'm excited to see what it is. I love that brand. I love obviously their animation style. I love that Nike is keeping them afloat because we are not at the box office. So thank you, Nike.
Case of nepotism to ever exist.
It's like the perfect nepotism actually keeping art afloat.
Yes.
I'm okay
Way
with
to
it
go.
in this case. So even when they are not the best films, I'm always excited to see, okay, well, what are we going to do next with Laika? And it feels like they're going back to like dark fairy tale roots, which is usually my favorite when it comes to Laika, these more darker tales. I love that little, even though it was just it's kind of weird. I've never seen somebody do a title reveal teaser trailer. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
But it gave me the vibes I wanted, so I'm really excited for this.
Yeah, it should be really fun. And they had little winks and little knowledge to their other films. And my favorite is still Paranorman. Well, I love Coraline too. They have so many good. I mean, Kubo's great as well. They have just so many great films. So, I give it a 4.
That's a 4 for me as well.
Okay, so we have Zootopia 2, and the sequel to the Disney Oscar-winning 2016 movie. Detectives Judy and Nick find themselves on the twisting trail of a mysterious reptile who arrives in Zootopia and turns the mammal metropolis upside down. This is also directed by Jared Bush and Yvette Marino. This comes out November 26th. I have to say, I really, really hope with this one that they don't feel as big of a need to make it like allegorical. I hope that we just get a fun detective story, a mystery, that we, get our characters together, some fun banter, some good jokes. But I hope that they don't feel a need to I mean, that like 2016 was like the perfect time for that kind of message and that kind of movie, and it worked and I enjoyed it. But I don't know, I just feel like it will come across as a lot more preachy and a lot more heavy-handed here if they try to do that same thing in this one. And just because our dynamic is very different right now than in 2016. And I don't know. That's my only concern with this one, but I'm looking forward to it.
And the allegory, while overall it didn't hinder the film, it still was one of those cases where we were trying to push an allegory that we as humans have onto kind of biological animal instinct.
Yeah, you kind of had to treat it like I thought like a Mother Goose story.
Yeah, you had to really push it out to the allegory because you're like, well, I mean, carnivores, like
yeah,
they're not apples to oranges, but
when you really start to dive in, like it's
I get it.
It's
works well
murky.
Enough.
It's murky, but just on like I'm trying to teach something to kids. Like a Mother Goose story. Yeah. It works. But yeah.
No, I fully agree. It's definitely one of those. Compared to, I think maybe I agree. Maybe I would have been a little bit more forgiving to something like Elemental if it came out a long time ago, like 2016. Because I also thought that allegory did not work. Like the allegory they were trying there.
Yep.
Because once again, physics and actual science, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like, no, you can't mix. I was like, this is not the same as humans mixing because you just can't.
Yeah.
You are not compatible. Like, not on a love sense.
Right.
Literally, you'll kill each other.
Right. Well, yeah, and we'd already seen so many diving into the world, and so this is the world of elements. We'd already seen the world of luck, and we'd seen the world of monsters, and we'd seen the world
Utopia.
of motions, and it's just kind of like, oh my gosh, this feels so tired. So yeah, I
and
agree.
I think most of the things Zootopia just did a lot of the same kind of stuff as Elemental, just better. And the
Yep.
buddy cop thing
Yeah.
worked a lot better than that romance they did in Elemental. I didn't
Agreed.
go for, but regardless, for Zootopia 2,
Plus, the
it'll be
characters were
interesting.
much more likable
Oh,
than in
everybody would
Elemental.
get so mad at me. I did not like Wade. I'm sorry, Wade.
Well, both of them were very
I found him
unlikable.
very
I thought
annoying. I thought he was very annoying. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
they were both
Uh,
unlikable. I thought.
But yeah, people always yell at me. Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't get on board with that character.
No.
So I'm hoping at least, yeah, Nick and Judy. We already love them. We loved them in their first film. Double down on that. You already know they have all of the all of the fanfics, all of the shippers. They have a whole shipping fandom for Nick and Judy. People just all the furries love Nick and Judy too. Just as a different part of the internet on its own.
I just feel like there's so many different lands and areas of the city that we got introduced to just briefly, but I have the Zootopia art book, and there's so much level of detail that they went into for each of those places, and there's so many different cases and stories that you could have within there. So I think they could make a really entertaining, really fun movie, but not feel the need to to have it be this allegory, to have it be so heavy-handed. And I'm a little nervous when I hear this about this reptile turning Metropolis upside down. Like, I hope that's not like, since they already did predators, now is the next thing going to be reptiles?
Cold-blooded versus warm-blooded.
Yeah. I could see them doing that. Let's be real. This is Disney we're talking about.
I mean, it will be very interesting because particularly you already mentioned it. I don't know if it's heavier, but it's at least I'd say on par in the second half of Wicked. We're dealing with the animals, and we're dealing with like the animal rights in Wicked itself, and that's going to be coming out like this one did against Moana right before Zootopia. So it's going to be weird if they lean too heavily into something very similar with like this animal rights, animal freedom kind of messaging with Wicked, and then this. We'll see what they do. True. But I fully agree. And I talked about it with Inside Out 2 last year. I think Inside Out and Zootopia were kind of set up for me personally as two of the concepts most ripe for expansion. Because I think Inside Out, you can go to other people if you want to, but also if you just kind of take the Toy Story method, obviously your emotional state continues to develop as you grow older and you're in all of these different states. So if you just keep growing up with your audience, you'll build in this like bond like we did with Andy leaving his toys behind in Toy Story. So I thought, okay, Inside Out, you can continue on with this. And I thought that was Zootopia the moment I saw it. I was like, we need a series or something because we just got these little tiny splashes of all of these different boroughs of this amazing world. And it was one of those cases where you could tell. You talked about the art book, and you can tell that they had this world built out. You can always feel it. Like when we go in there, it's thought out, it's thought through. Even if we're only spending a scene here, you can just feel that they put a lot of care into it. So ever since I saw Zootopia, I was like, please, we need to get back in this world and let me explore different boroughs when we do. And like we talked about on our Disney podcast, it's just a buddy cop. Like there's always going to be new cases. They could solve anything. So if the reptile is just up to devious things, or even if it's a more generic plot of like she wants to, or they, I guess. I don't know what the reptile is. I guess I'm just thinking of Viola Davis and Kung Fu Panda. That's the reptile I have in my head right now as a villain.
What would you give it?
I think I'm gonna go I'm gonna go at 3.5 because I am still excited. I'm a little bit nervous after Moana 2, but at least this one I know was developed as a film to begin with. Right. Like we're not getting any of that Moana shenanigans. So I'm hoping they've given it the care it needs. You and I both really enjoyed both Frozen 2 and Ralph Breaks the Internet, so I've liked both of the planned, thought out Disney sequels recently. So hopefully this follows in the same vein.
I'm gonna give it a 3, but we'll see once that trailer comes out. That'll be very telling.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
Talk just a second about these live action movies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So there's How to Train Your Dragon, directed by Dean DeBlois, Gerard Butler, Nick Frost. And this trailer looked absolutely atrocious. It looked horrible. It looked like they entered How to Train Your Dragon live action into ChatGPT, and this is what came out. It looked so bad. Everything looked plasticky and fake and exactly like the animated film, but ugly. I couldn't believe how bad it looked. So I'd give this a 0. I think it looked terrible.
I love that original and the whole series so much.
Yeah.
It feels like this
if it comes out and it is a shot for shot copy of that original film,
God.
but in live action. I mean, how would you feel?
I'm going to be there's very little chance this isn't a disappointment. That's the unfortunate reality of this. It feels very much like Lion King 2019 of that trailer literally is a shot for shot from the trailer. At least they didn't try to go too, realistic with Toothless, but he's still not nearly as cute as animated Toothless. He's still not as expressive and beautiful. It feels like with this and with Moana, part of them rushing was to get the stars back in it, like getting Gerard Butler. It's like, oh, we can still have Gerard Butler play his same role, or oh, we can still have The Rock play Maui. So we got to get these things off the tar map while they're still able to play the roles. And it's like, no. Like, we don't care about Gerard Butler being the voice of Stoic. Like, yes, he's great, but we don't need him in live action to be Stoic. We don't need it. So I think there could be, I don't know, maybe it's just my nostalgia, and I still think I'll go 1. I'll go 1.
Well, so then we have Lilo and Stitch. And the only thing that gives me a little bit of hope for this movie is that it is directed by Dean Fleischer Camp, who did Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, that I loved so much, love and adore. And so, that gives me like a little bit of hope that maybe he might do something fun with it. It might be a little bit cute. But I am not the biggest Lilo and Stitch fan. I think the movie has huge heart, and I appreciate that. And especially as somebody who co-parented my much younger siblings, I can really appreciate what Nani is experiencing and going through. And I mean, my parents luckily were alive, but I still did a lot. I spent a lot of time with them. They were a lot younger than me. So I appreciate that dynamic. But the movie, it just, for me, Lilo and Stitch, it loses me in just, it doesn't know when to, like, enough is enough. Like, when the house blows up, I just like, are you kidding me? Like, what else could they do to these people? Like, it's just too much. And it just becomes... it feels like a pile-on, I think.
Okay,
it's like,
fair.
Give it a break, and and I don't know, like it, in a lot of the goofy shenanigans, in comparison with just the worst luck any humans could have, it doesn't work for me tonally. But I do appreciate the heart and soul and the Ohana and the animation. So I have very mixed feelings about it. But
again, thankfully, thankfully we live in like a post Sonic the Hedgehog world. Like Disney wasn't the first experiment because I'm a little bit nervous and scared of what they might have tried to do with Stitch pre Sonic and the internet in an uproar and making them redesign the character. Especially with their like their desire for this hyper realistic animals for so long. So thankfully, Stitch is very cute. So I'm like, okay, good. We got Stitch down. He looks very cute, very endearing. We don't have much outside of that. I have enjoyed that they've just replicated the marketing campaign of the animated original. They've just put Stitch into all these other Disney posters and such, which is fun. They're really harking back. But I just
So they've done that. I missed
yeah,
that.
they have done that. They've done it
Oh.
obviously with The Lion King or Mufasa. They did it with something
they
else
did?
recently too. So they've done it with a few different posters and put Stitch just like in there. I'll go 2. It's one of the ones I'm more. It's actually not one of. It's the only remaining Disney live action thing on the books that I have any hope for right now. So Snow White 0, Moana 0.5 maybe, but more towards a 0.
Great.
Stitch is the only one that I have like any hope for right now.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Well, they also have the Minecraft movie on here.
Oh my god.
Directed by Jared Hess, who I do like. I mean, he did Napoleon Dynamite. But this trailer looked absolutely atrocious. 0. Horrible.
Oh my god, I couldn't believe my eyes actually. This was one of those where I just like was staring at the screen, couldn't believe what I was witnessing the very first time I saw this trailer.
Have you ever played the game? I have never.
I've never. I just know it's a bunch of blocks and you kind of just build things. That's not a movie. Again, we've gone down the rabbit hole of games with no plot becoming
Yeah.
films, and you're like, does this ever work? Like, it doesn't
No.
work. You're trying to add a plot in here, and then you have Jack Black doing a. Look, I think Jack Black had a renaissance because we had a break from him. So we had a break from his style of comedy for a while, and then
Yeah.
he came back, and it was like, oh yeah, Jack Black, and he was in a lot of kids stuff and a lot of
Yeah,
family-friendly
family.
stuff, and it was fun. I think we're at that point with Jack Black a little bit, where it's like, oh okay.
Did you watch the Devil movie, the Satan movie?
Oh god, no.
Absolutely atrocious. It was terrible.
What was that other one? Oh, Kung Fu Panda. I was like, what was the one he did? Hit Me Baby One More Time. You know, like Kung Po is like a good character for him to like stay
Yeah.
with, and just be Poe. Just be Poe. Jason Momoa, how did you let them? Why did you let them talk you into putting that wig on your head? I will not understand, but 0.
Yeah, 0. It looks so bad. And then another 0 for Snow White, directed by Mark
Oh, well.
Webb. From, I guess you have Greta Gerwig doing the script, but
Girl.
and I mean this thing. I honestly, if they were to announce that we had Batgirled it, I would not be. I don't think anybody would complain. I think you'd get a general like.
I'd rather
okay.
get Batgirl, please. Actually, pull Batgirl off the shelf and put it in Snow White's place. For one, when are we done with the Snow White movies? Like, talk about a fairy tale that doesn't really need to. I know everybody harps on Cinderella, I feel like, but I'm sick of Snow White. Like, we always get these little weird Snow White, and they're always like these little live action movies. Most of the time aren't very good.
Well,
Just,
and it's
like,
just so
there.
obnoxious. You're saying that like, oh, it was so outdated and she was just waiting around for a man. It's like, no, she wasn't. She was out like going about her life, like helping she was making pies and helping. Like she
Yeah.
wasn't sitting around waiting for a man. Like that is a
It's-
truly bizarre take on that story. And yes, she does get reawakened by a kiss, but I mean, come
It just-
on.
And then yeah, you know, the queen is the most tropey, probably. Like, she's a lot of fun to lean into because
Yeah.
you do just get to be devious, but she is very tropey. Like, she hates her because she's the fairest of them all. So it's like, sure, you know, but I don't know. We tried this with Snow White and the Huntsman. You know, we had that one Julia Roberts movie that came out around the same
Oh,
time.
yeah.
And then we got the
I
Huntsman
actually
again
kind of like
after.
Mirror Mirror.
Well,
It's
especially compared to Snow White and the Huntsman. Yeah, Mirror Mirror was
kinda
looking
fun.
pretty good. But,
and I actually love Gal Gadot, but it looks bad.
look, I'm one of the last defenders of Gal. I think she looks gorgeous as per usual, as always. But it's
Yeah.
another case. Like, no offense to these women. No offense to Kristen Stewart, particularly before she kind of got a glow up. Once Kristen embraced her more queer side and got the cut and really that's when her sex appeal to me really started coming through. Back then, I was like, what is Charlize scared of? Like, what?
Yeah.
Why would Charlize? And now Rachel Zegler is a very pretty girl. I'm not saying that, but
the Mirror is going to say that she's prettier than Gal Gadot.
Gal, literally no one on Earth. Like, who on earth are you going to put there and say that Gal is like scared of, is going to be prettier than no one? She's like literally perfection in human form. It's ridiculous.
Well,
but
and this movie is going to be so annoying because Disney is going to claim basically anybody who likes it is is racist or bigoted or whatever, because we don't like their film, which is bizarre when it's not. It has two white people in the lead, but that's what they're going to do.
It's also just weird. Again, we're talking about bad wigs. Disney. You could have gotten a theme park Snow White wig and put it on Rachel Zegler, and it would have been way better than this. That is one of the most atrocious hair I think I've ever seen. Like, oh my god, that bob they put Rachel Zegler in is absolutely tragic.
Really
and then, of course, we have the controversy over the little people for the dwarves. We had Peter Dinklage come out, and then Disney backed off because of Peter Dinklage. So they decided to do CGI, and then a bunch of little people actors came forward and were like, no! He doesn't speak for us.
Yeah, because then we don't get roles.
Yeah, we want of course he can afford to say that because he can get whatever role he wants. We want the role.
Yeah.
And now they're these monsters. Like, they are these literal nightmare-fueled dwarves running around. Oh my god, it looks so bad. 0. Like, maybe 0. Even -4 because I can't. It like elicits an audible, just like groan, an audible, just disgust in the theater. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it looks so bad. If they were going, I mean, I wish they wouldn't do this at all. But like, I think if it was me and they were coming to me for advice and they were determined to do this, I would say, why don't you do what you did with Once Upon a Time, but do that in these remakes? Like, make them unique in their own thing and their own stories. And like Once Upon a Time was like a little bit strange and a little weird and had like its own lore and its own sensibility, but it had all those winks and homages that you wanted to all of the films. And I just wish that they took that approach. I mean, like, the few times that they did were, in my opinion, better than the others, like with Pete's Dragon, that it was just kind of an homage to the original, but it was its own work of art. And I really wish that they took that approach more than what they've done with most of these.
It's just next year. I mean, again, we'll see what happens with Lilo and Stitch, but Zootopia 2, we're going to need you to pull through.
Yeah, I mean, I think out of all of these, I think Paddington is my most anticipated. Yes. And then the Magnificent Life of Marcel Pagnol, and then maybe Elio. Probably the bad guys. Probably my. But let us know what you think. Let us know which ones you're most excited for of these ones that we talked about, or maybe some ones we didn't talk about that you're excited about. Let us know in the comments or on Twitter. And Larry, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me over at Chili Boy Productions. I referenced it here in the video. I did a ranking of all the animated films I saw in 2024, and that did include 2 of the movies here And then you can also find me over on Blue Sky at Chili Boy Productions, Instagram Chili Boy Productions, and Twitter at ChiliBoyYT.
And I'm going to be doing a 2024 animation podcast with Matt Burnett that we're going to be recording actually that tomorrow. So you'll have that as well if you want to hear my ranking of the 2024 animated films. You should check that out. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. We really appreciate that. And if you're watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate that so much. And you can find me all over Rachel's Reviews, all over the place, and check out the Hallmarkies podcast. And we have our Patreon group, which is the biggest way you can support everything we do. And we have merch store. We have #Animation Junkie shirts. So check that out. And thanks so much. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.